Wow, we've got a fire disrupting a cruise for 5,200 passengers. We've got a cruise line that's dropping a fairly normal port for a different port. And look, we got a cruise passenger out there that feels like they were treated rudely. They were told to stop doing something. And, well, is this right or is it wrong? Yeah, we'll break it down. All that and more on today's episode. Let's go.
The cruise show, Tony B on deck, keeping you in the know. You are in the place for everything going on and cruising for your face. It's the cruise show.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to La Lido Loca. Welcome to the cruise show. I am your host, Tony, here to talk you through everything going on in cruising. It's everything going on in cruising. It's for your face on a Tuesday the 2nd of September, 2025. And man, I came home to a mess. I'll tell you about that in a second, but I took a little vacay, took a little 4-day vacay road trip with the lovely Jenny B and my brother-in-law and his girl, and we went up to the mountains. We went to the mountains of North Carolina, Murphy, North Carolina. I tell you what, it's been hot in Florida, and you don't realize it till you escape the heat. It was really pleasant in Murphy, North Carolina. We also went over to Helen, Georgia while we were out. It's pretty good. I still think cruising's the way for me. All this driving around and paying for stuff, I think cruising's still my vacation of choice, but it was nice to get away for a few days and celebrate the Labor Day holiday. Hope everybody had a good one. And then as soon as we got home yesterday, whammo blammo, back to reality. Our air conditioning unit is out. We purchased a home that was a little older. We knew that there would be a time where we would have to replace the air conditioning unit, and we thought that time would not be so soon. But we got workmen at the house today replacing the whole air conditioning unit. Holy moly, cajoli. So that's what the lovely Jenny B is dealing with today. But that does not stop the fact that there is things to talk about in cruising. And first, let's talk about something that happened on a cruise ship that holds 5,200 passengers, which is kind of a big cruise ship. A few days ago on the P&O Iona, there was a fire in one of the galleys. Now, if you're familiar with cruising at all, you know that fire is one of the worst things that can happen on a cruise ship. But you probably also know that cruise ships drill often for scenarios where there could possibly be a fire. Whole teams of crew members dedicated to fire response. Really, the whole crew, knows what to do in the event of a fire. We have passengers reporting that alarms were sounded, that announcements were made, and that crew members sprang into action. There was some question as to whether or not passengers would be called to muster, but the crew member were called to the muster stations, and very shortly after the alarm sounded, another announcement was made that the fire was contained. And really the only unfortunate thing that came out of it that really impacted the guests on board was a temporary closure of some of the restaurants that were impacted by the Galley fire, but it didn't even sound like that was a very long scenario. So in a situation where the story could have turned bad, it sounds like it was handled in the way it should be handled. And so the next time that you may be annoyed because there's a safety drill with a lot of announcements on a port day while you're trying to stay on the cruise ship so you can enjoy the cruise ship, and you're like, why are they making all these announcements about the drill? That is why, so that in the event of an emergency, people know almost instinctively what to do and can respond. And that's, way to go, crew on the Iona, captain and crew on the Iona, and glad that story has a good ending. It is freaky how connected we are because of the internet. Staying at some random Airbnb cabin in the middle of North Carolina, I used the TV, which is an internet-connected device, and all of a sudden, stuff I've been looking at on my phone starts to be presented to me as an ad on the TV. Oddly enough, it's because my data is out there. It's because I've consented for the applications that I use to collect and share my data be collected by data brokers, stored in data warehouses, And, that's kind of the price of using the internet. Now, fortunately, you can get your data removed from data brokers, from data warehouses, thanks to the sponsor of today's episode, Incogni. Incogni is a service that interfaces with data brokers and data warehouses to get your sensitive private data removed off of the internet. It's your right to do it. Super simple process. You sign up with Incogni, you authorize them to work on your behalf, and then you sit back as they send out these requests to have your data removed. I've been using Incogni for a while, and to date, my data has been removed from 454 of these data warehouse sites, which should mean less of my data out there on the internet to be used by people's search engines and the worst case scenario, hackers, that kind of thing. Now, excitingly, you can try Incogni for yourself at a discounted price. Scan the QR code that's on the screen or hit the link in the description, www.incogni.com/LaLitoLoca. Use my code LaLitoLoca to save 60% off of your subscription. Yeah, get your data off the internet. Thank you, Incogni, for sponsoring today's episode. I was just thinking about people that complain during the drill. I don't like it when the announcements come on. I'm trying to have a drink and I'm just hey, shut up. How about that? Safety first. Safety first. All right, now let's talk about another scenario where cruisers do sometimes get upset, whether or not it's legit or not. This one might be, we might give a little more grace to the upsetness in this one. Passengers on the upcoming Norwegian Encore sailing on November the 8th, 2025, 7-night Caribbean sailing, were notified that they will no longer be going to Cozumel in Mexico. This is a Western Caribbean sailing, goes to Cozumel. It's going over to Costa Maya. It's going to Roatan in Honduras. It's going to Belize, to Norwegian's private spot in Belize. They were notified that because of port availability in Cozumel, they can no longer go there. Instead of going to Cozumel, Mexico, they will instead go to Great Stirrup Cay in the Bahamas. Yeah, look, they're not giving any compensation, and they're just saying, hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. We don't have any port availability. And that, if you've ever been to Cozumel, there's normally a lot of ships in Cozumel. It's an interesting question. A lot of people will book that Western Caribbean sailing so that they can go to Cozumel, so that they can go to some Maya ruins, so that they can go to one of the beach clubs. I would say that you should do a luchador excursion in Cozumel. There's just a lot to do in Cozumel. Certainly a lot more to do in Cozumel than in Great Stirrup Cay. But look, it is what it is. If there's no room at the inn in Cozumel, then you got to go somewhere. That's an interesting question. Would you rather have a sea day or a beach day? Because if you go to Great Stirrup Cay, that's it. I mean, there's a beach, there's some drinking, there's some food, there's some zip lines, but it's all about the beach. And for me, that's certainly a different day than in Cozumel. Do you think a change like that warrants some sort of compensation, or is that just what you get? Sometimes, like these cruise contracts would say it's just what you get, but is it right? Is it right? What do you think? Would you be upset? Leave a comment below. Now we got a couple milestone stories about a couple important cruise ships. Royal Caribbean's Legend of the Seas. That will be the next cruise ship in the Icon class of cruise ships. She's floated out. She's floated out for the first time. If you know anything about shipbuilding, float out's pretty early in that process. You got like the steel cutting and all that, and they do the steel cutting and they start assembling the hull of the ship in a dry dock, like no water, dry dock, no water. And then eventually it gets to the point where the ship is, built enough to where they can flood that dry dock and float that ship out. She was floated out just a few days ago, August the 29th, at the Meyer Turku shipyard in Finland. I guess the third ship in the Icon class. There's still a fourth ship coming yet to be named. Cruise ship on the water. She can float, guys. Shout out Ludicrous. Way to go, Legend, for being able to hold water. And then we also have Disney Cruise Line's new ship, the Disney Adventure. They're heading out on their sea trials, which is further down in the shipbuilding process. They've already had their float out, all that kind of stuff. Now the ship is seaworthy, ready to go out and go through the paces and try all the systems, all that stuff. All the core and all the final touches obviously not done, but the nuts and bolts of actually sailing on the water That's going to happen for the Disney Adventure. Disney Adventure, look, I'm usually pretty anti going on a Disney cruise ship, but this one is heavily focused on the Marvel heroes. Spider-Man's going to be on the back there with the flip. Disney Adventure is kind of tempting. Anybody sailing on that ship, I believe her sail date's this year. Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Look, is Spider-Man the best superhero? I think I say yes. Spider-Man or Wolverine? I'll go to battle for either one of those guys. I saw something I'd never seen the other day when I was in Helen, Georgia. I went into a record shop, but it was like a record shop, and it was a comic book shop, and it was a video game store, and it was a movie store. And right in the cabinet, they had an Amazing Spider-Man #1 from the 1960s. I'd never seen one in person. I've seen pictures before. $2,200. I passed on it. I really should have picked up this Fonzie record in retrospect for $7. It just to have Henry Winkler in my house, I think would have been a plus. There's an interesting conversation that came up. I was watching YouTuber Adam the Woo. He was at a Comic-Con and he approached one of the guys from Top Gun, one of the older guys. It seemed like he did some stuff that he wasn't supposed to do, because when you go to these Comic-Cons, you're not supposed to approach the celebrities because that's how they make their living. So if you want a picture, if you want to video them, if you want to, autograph, you have to pay big dollars. And I was talking about that with my brother-in-law, and he said, would you pay for anybody's autograph? And I thought about that long and hard. The only person I really would have paid for was Stan Lee, because I feel like Stan Lee, and again, what's the significance of having someone's autograph? I would have paid for Stan Lee's autograph just so I could have went and said thank you for what you've given to the culture, in the form of these superheroes. And some people may, superheroes, this is like kid stuff. Really, what Stan Lee did with some of those early comics like Spider-Man, he really kind of put a spotlight on society and how we treat the marginalized, and he did it through comic books, and he marketed that to people that really needed to hear those messages. Good stuff. I think I would have paid $100 for a Stan Lee autograph just to get to meet Stan the Man, but I don't know if I would chase any other autographs right now. I don't know. I don't think I would. Is there anybody out there that you would pay money for an autograph? Have you? Who was it? Leave a comment below. Now, let's talk about a cruiser that is upset. He is upset because maybe it could be a she. He or she is upset at the way they were treated by a crew member on Carnival Cruise Line. They were so upset, they sent a message to Carnival's social media influencer, John Heald, hoping that he could get the word out to the powers that be at Carnival. This is what they said. Yesterday, my cruise pals and me were playing cards and left, right, center. We were told by a very rude Carnival blank worker that we had to stop. He was very rude. I have met lifelong friends through playing this game. Each game was only $20 max on the table, $4 each. Not going to break Carnival's bank or anyone else's. Some of Carnival's rules are getting out of hand. By the way, Heald, LRC is the most popular card in retirement communities across the United States. This is interesting. So left, right, center is a gambling game, essentially. Everybody throws in a few dollars, and at the end, depending on how the dice roll, you could end up with a little bit of a pile of cash. Now, I don't know, a couple years ago, Carnival said that they considered this to be gambling, and it's unsanctioned gambling. They don't want people on their cruise ships gambling except in the casino, and you could argue the reasoning for that. Obviously, they would rather people gamble their money, through the official casino structure so that they get their take of the money. That's one reason. And then I guess there's other reasons why you wouldn't want people just gambling out there, having money on the line, because, that could turn contentious. What if somebody accuses somebody else of cheating at left, right, center? I don't think I've ever seen that happen before, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that when money is on the line, even if it is $20, that somebody could get mad at somebody else over the gambling. So they don't allow the gambling, and therefore the crew members have been instructed to tell people to stop. I get it. I think the guy makes a great point here. It's a very innocent game. He said that left, right, center is the most popular card game. Traditionally, left, right, center is a dice game. I even Googled it, and it said, yeah, it's a dice game, even though there are some versions of the card, some card versions of left, right, center. But who knows? What do you think? Do you think that the crew member was wrong for enforcing the rules? I'll put it like that. Do you think the crew member was wrong for enforcing the rules, or do you think that the crew member should have looked the other way when it came to enforcing the rules? And if they look the other way for left, right, center, do we want them looking the other way for everything else? That's an interesting thing. Or do we want crew members making judgments on which rules should apply and which rules don't? Which you could argue that they do, because sometimes, there's rules that don't get applied. It's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. You either apply them all or apply none of them, I guess, is one way to go about it. It is Tuesday, so live shows tonight. Just be me because of the air conditioning issue. 8 p.m. for our Patreon followers, patreon.com/Lido Loca. 9 p.m. for the big show here on YouTube. Big thanks again to Incogni for sponsoring today's episode. Make sure you hit that link below. Protect your data. And now there's really nothing left to do but dance. Get up. Get up.